So what are the alternatives? Don't we have to hang on to growth? Well, some people say no. Some are quite radical and say, let's just kind of change the way we live. Let's have zero growth. Let's even go into what they call degrowth. These are fairly radical ideas and they're attached to sort of fairly radical politics. But are those the only alternatives? That's where this comes in. My faithful ring donut. Because economist Kate Raworth has developed a now fairly well-known idea of donut economics. And what she says is that the economic system that drives our world, which is the economic system that's effectively been in place since the 19th century, is just not fit for purpose in the 21st century. The world of full world economics. We need a different way of operating that's going to make us and our world sustainable and prosperous into the future. And so she uses the idea of a donut. Here's the book with a little doodle of the donut on the front. And what she says is, if you think about economics as a donut and the way we operate, and you look outside the edge of that donut, that's where we're over-consuming. We're messing up our lives and our world. We can get away with it today and tomorrow, but year by year things are going to get more problematic. Is that true? Well, for a hard-headed assessment, you can turn to global reinsurers Swiss Re. So these are hard-headed Swiss financiers and economists. They're not kind of green fanatics or anything like that. And they ran the numbers using a lot of data from Moody Analytics, who are one of the biggest kind of risk assessment firms in the world. And what they came up with is a picture of the world in 2050, where they found that global GDP would have shrunk by 10%. So not growth, but shrinkage. And even worse, in the worst affected area, Asia, it might have fallen by as much as 25%. That's pretty devastating. And alongside that, they looked at particular risk factors. They said, what's going to happen in our cities? They're going to get hotter, less healthy. What's going to happen to productivity? It's going to drop. What's going to happen to our climate? Cities, which are often coastal, will increasingly flood. Other areas will become so arid that they will in turn drive massive migration, which will cause even greater social instability. So all the details there, and it's crunched down to a kind of regional level to say this is just the practical consequences of what we're doing at the moment. And that's the problem with the outside of the ring donut. Now in the middle is obviously the opposite problem. If we just kind of shut the world's economy down, then everybody becomes poorer. So in between the outside and the hole is the sweet spot, boom. That's where we should operate. So Kate Raworth says, I'm not into growth or degrowth, I'm growth agnostic. Growth just isn't the goal. The goal is to operate in that sweet spot and to ask how we adjust our economy to make it work for all of us, not just now, but for the next generation and the generation after that. The challenge with ideas like this is they depend on dealing with our global addiction to growth. And it's hard to see how that could change, particularly because business, industry, and the governments who manage them are all locked into that drive for growth. And in terms of that consumer cycle, where you have business, it's managed by government, and you have the public, maybe the only potential change agents are the public themselves. What if they said we want things to be different, we want things to be better, we want things to work for the future, not just today and tomorrow? Well, the way that the media and politicians portray public attitudes suggests that the public are totally bought in to consumption and the current world order. But actually, if you go and find out what the public actually think, which the media very rarely bother to do, through heavyweight surveys which actually ask people. There are masses of surveys out there which I've researched from my book at national level, regional level and at global level, which, taking the particular issue of climate change, show that typically about 3/4 of people are deeply concerned about climate change and want things to be different. What's more, because people would just say, yeah, we want everything, these surveys show people are prepared to bear some cost for things being different. So there's an entry point there. There's a potential for people, if they understood the way things are and the consequences of this unsustainable growth model, there's the possibility of people saying, we want something different. We'll vote in the ballot boxes, we'll vote with our credit cards and so on. Maybe as an alternative, the doughnut is a way forward. I'm going to enjoy this one in a minute. Whether it's the doughnut or something else, we need to find another way to run our world which is fit for the way it is today, not the way it was 2 centuries ago. The public, treated as active citizens rather than passive consumers, are a key player in the possibility of things being different. But how would that work? Well, that's a subject for another video, another day. If you found this video useful in understanding disasters, subscribe to this channel as we explore disaster makers and check out the Disaster Makers book.